Hello and welcome. My name is Michelle Mason, Disability Services Lead for the Office of Workforce Development. This training will focus on Youth Program Element 10, Comprehensive Guidance and Counseling. During this training, we will review the state of the national youth mental health crisis, national statistics surrounding the crisis, and the response from the U.S. Surgeon General and ETA. We will then move into clarifying ETA's definition of Youth Program Element 10, qualifying and non-qualifying activities associated with Program Element 10, recognizing potential signs of mental health crises, and components and process of effective case documentation of Youth Element 10 services. Lastly, we will review the distinction between guidance and counseling or youth career services, respectively, Youth Elements 10 and 13. There's currently a national youth mental health crisis, and the pandemic only exacerbated the situation. To give the crisis more color, let's take a look at some numbers. Before 2019, 1 in 5 children ages 3 to 17 had a reported mental, emotional, developmental, or behavioral disorder. In 2016, 7.7 million children with treatable mental health disorders. About half did not receive adequate treatment. From 2009 to 2019, a full decade, 40% increase in feeling of sadness and hopelessness, 36% increase in suicidal attempts. Now, we'll look at the numbers for after 2019. We know pandemic started in 2020. It is estimated that as of June 2021, more than 140,000 children in the U.S. had lost a parent or grandparent caregiver to COVID-19. 1 in 3 high school students reported persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness. In early 2021, state visits for suspected suicide attempts were 51% higher for adolescents and 4% higher for adolescent boys. The numbers are jarring. But in the words of the U.S. Surgeon General, mental health conditions are real, common, and treatable. Thankfully, Workforce has a role to play in this solution with Youth Program Element 10. In response to the crisis, the U.S. Surgeon General has released an advisory report in August of 2021, Protecting Youth Mental Health. This report provides in-depth details on the crisis, as well as resources available to practitioners, educators, and the community at large. The goal of this report is to present a solution by way of information and practical tools. As previously stated, Workforce has a pivotal role to play in this solution, and ETA has responded to the crisis with great emphasis. Our solution rests in how we execute our activities within Program Element 10, which states, comprehensive guidance and counseling provides individualized counseling to participants. This includes drug and alcohol abuse counseling, mental health counseling, and referral to partner programs as appropriate. When referring participants to necessary counseling that cannot be provided by the local youth program or its service providers, the local youth program must coordinate with the organization it refers to in order to ensure continuity of service. When resources exist within the local program or its service providers, it is allowable to provide counseling services directly to participants rather than refer youth to partner programs. This information is up to date as of 6/23/2023. Keep in mind, counseling is a complex helping process, and it is not the expectation of OWD for local area staff to be counselors in the traditional sense, but to be aware enough to recognize the signs and indicators and make the referral to effective services. And if the services are provided by a qualified partner agency, the referral must be accompanied by a follow-up process. We want to ensure we are doing our part in providing a continuum of services to meet our youth participants' mental health needs. We have learned there are certain youth groups who are at a higher risk for mental health crises. According to statistics, some of the groups we should target for comprehensive guidance and counseling are youth with disabilities, racial and ethnic minorities youth, low-income youth, justice-involved youth, youth in immigrant households, youth in rural areas, and LGBTQ+ youth. There are a number of qualifying activities under this element. Mental health counseling therapy, substance abuse and alcohol counseling, supplementing guidance and counseling activities, and a host of other activities. There are also a number of non-qualifying activities, such as informal guidance and counseling from well-meaning but inexpert individuals, and supplying self-help resources or materials without personal counseling. An example of this would be handing a participant a flyer for information. You will notice mental health is highlighted in the presentation as our high-ranking focus in response to the crisis. Now that we have identified qualifying activities, you may have the question, how can you identify if the participant is potentially experiencing a mental health crisis? The starting point is observation of the youth for significant changes. What did you see and hear? What did the participants state? How was their presentation verbally and physically? For example, is the participant struggling or behaving differently? Are they having difficulty expressing their thoughts? Do they appear to be disconnected from the discussion? Did you notice changes in their physical appearance? For example, hygiene and grooming. Are there any physical changes in their appearance? There are instances where an individual experiences a physiological change to their face and body, such as a tic. As a performance-based program, we must document our services. We will take some time to break down the anatomy of an effective case note for guidance and counseling. We start with the indicators, obvious and hidden. Remember the indicators we just reviewed? What did you notice? And once you take notice, state it plainly. There also needs to be a statement of your plan once you've noticed those indicators. What are you going to do at this point? Refer with intention. State a goal. A timeline for next steps should be indicated. Remember, local area staff are responsible to ensure continuity of service. Here you will see a fully assembled case note with your indicators, plan of action for referral, next steps, and follow-up. You may have the case of a participant who is not interested in referral to counseling services. This documentation is almost a mirror to the case note, except for the area indicating the participant is not interested in a referral to counseling services. In order to aid local area staff through this process, the Office of Workforce Development have also developed this tool to assist in the documentation of Youth Program Element 10. Let's talk about how to track these services in the WorkSource Georgia portal. Historically, we have used Code 417, Comprehensive Guidance and Counseling, to indicate youth career services, like completion of the individual service strategy and career exploration and labor market information. However, we have received clarification and guidance from ETA regarding the correct purpose of Youth Program Element 10, which is purely mental health services. As a response to this, the agency has taken steps to update the portal to distinguish between general youth career services and comprehensive guidance and counseling. Youth Code 433 is for the provision of youth career services. This code should be added to the WorkSource Georgia portal after the provision of career services during individual service strategy development. Youth Code 417 is only for the provision of mental health services. This code should be added reflecting the date the participant received mental health services by an authorized professional. This date is counted as a service once follow-up is conducted by local area staff with the participant and/or the provider. The references and resources consulted to develop this training have been hyperlinked to this presentation slide. This concludes our training on Youth Program Element 10, Comprehensive Guidance and Counseling.